Podcasting from sunny Clearwater, Florida, home to one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. Each week, we bring you real conversations with inventors, entrepreneurs, and product pros navigating the wild world of innovation. Whether you're just getting started or ready to scale, this is your place to fuel up and launch forward. And now here's your host, innovator, author, and invention expert, Carmine Danisco.
What's up, everyone? Carmine Danisco here on the launch pad. Got a good treat for everyone today. Instead of having to listen to me ramble on about the same things each week and talk about the same things and go on and on, as you guys send me in letters to complain about me talking too much, I have an actual awesome business person coming on with me today who's got a lot of cool stuff happening. He hails from Florida, basically pretty close to our office here, pretty close to me. I don't know to call him, Colonel or Doctor, but I could call him both. Dr. Russell Barnes. Russ Barnes is on with me. Russ, what's happening, man?
Keeping it moving, keeping it going, staying on top of it. That's what is happening, man.
Yeah. You do so much that I could spend 15 minutes just introducing you, dude.
This is true. I kind of stay busy. I stay a little bit busy.
Oh man, no. What's cool about it, and we've been friends for a while is I love how you try to throttle. We were just talking about it before we started the show, how busy you can get. Because if you open up the floodgates, right? I mean, that people will take up every minute. Not that it's a bad thing, and people don't mean to, but they'll take up every minute of your day, right? I mean, you've been doing a lot of cool stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not a bad thing.
No,
there is only so much capacity that I have, and I have to be able to focus on, like they say, keep the main thing the main thing. And as much as I enjoy and love being involved in all the things that are out there to do and to help people and to change lives, I did. And I told you about this. I did have to throttle back and start to say, you know what, I really need to focus on the 2 or 3 most important things, and I need to let some of the other things go. As much as I enjoy being part of all of those things, the capacity just isn't there. And I need to focus a little bit more. And with the way things are changing in the environment, it really became important for me to throttle back because there's so much knowledge that has to be acquired, so much learning that has to happen when you talk about AI and the implications of that on the community of people that I'm trying to help. I need to understand how that works. And so I had to kind of bring it in a little bit so that I could be the best, most knowledgeable person in these spaces as I could be.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's having to do that. I think that's becoming very common where people are having to really specialize. Yeah.
No, I agree. And both of us, we always are looking to help people, and that's what happens. Look, and I found the same thing. I love doing any kind of business. I mean, I'll be out at my home, and the guys that do my lawn, they're awesome guys. They start asking me about business, and then you will go to a school and we'll talk about technical stuff in their business. The differences are still business related, but right. I noticed that, like you said, you can really get thinned out. If, like you said, you try to help everyone, even though we want to help everyone. And it gets to the point where if you specialize, you can really do that much better work, better job.
Yeah, because I do strategy development and organization design. In just those 2 categories right there, strategy development can keep me 24 hours a day. And then when I add in the organization design work, then that adds a whole nother dimension. And just that alone, wow, takes up all the time. So when people start saying, hey, can you come over and get involved in this or get involved in that? I do look for alignment. I say, hey, well, if it's aligned and it's helping me to get to where I'm trying to get with, and my goal for years, 600,000 micro business owners purposefully profitable. That's what I want to achieve before, as the minimum for what I want to do with this particular business.
Yeah.
And so in order for me to focus on that goal and that objective, I do have to stay in my lane.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. And again, you do a great job doing that because most small businesses can also obviously use what you're talking about. Do you find that a lot of small businesses, they kind of just start up and they're like, all of a sudden they become somewhat successful and then they go, where the hell am I going now?
That is why I exist. That is why I created Systro Solutions, and the whole purpose and intent is because as a solopreneur, individual running a company, starting out by yourself, there are so many things that you have to do. And what I find is that people start running. They say, "Oh, I got this idea. I want to build this company. I want to make some money." And they just start running. And they're listening to everything that comes in. Oh, you need business cards. Boom, got to get some business cards. You need a website. Boom, got to get a website. You need a business plan. Boom, got to get a business plan. And you're reacting and responding to all the things that you're hearing from people who have been successful in business. So it's not wrong, but the problem is it's not what you need to be doing, because the first thing, the reason you go into business, number one, basic business, you got to be making money. And when you start out following what successful people who have already built a successful company are already doing, they're already making money. So they can give you this advice. Oh, you need this, you need this, you need this, but they have money coming in. But if you don't have money coming in, then you're putting yourself behind the power curve, because the definition of profitability is where your income exceeds your expenses. So you start out building expenses along the lines of someone who already has income, and you're putting yourself way behind the power curve. So strategy, and what I do is I say, hey, um, keep it simple and make the main thing the main thing. And my definition of strategy is simple as I could possibly make it. And it's, how do you get from where you are to where you want to be? And the first thing you need to know then is, where do I want to be? And you need to define that. And 90% of business owners, people who are aspiring to build a company, they don't even think about where they want to be. They just think about, today I need to make some money. And I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna try to do the best I can to make some money. And if you ask them, how much money do you want to make? I want to make as much money as I can. I want to make $1 million. I want to make $1 billion. But work comes with that. And if you haven't defined how much money you want to work, you don't know how much money you don't know how much work you have to do.
Yeah.
You know, how many customers do you need? What does your price point have to be? What is it that you're delivering? What are the results that you are delivering? It's really hard to really frame and manage your time and your resources if you haven't set in place some basic things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that, and we'll go back a little bit, but, you know, you listeners out there, Russ and I differ on the way we do things, but we agree on, you got to make money. There's no, Russ,
Yeah.
you and I talk about this all the time. People are, I don't want to say scared, or I tell people all the time, I love making money. I love
Right.
it. And what we get, and what I do when I'm helping a small business owner, is they always start off with, I want to donate my money. I want to help people and things like that. And that's awesome. But the first thing you got to do is make money first.
That's right. That's right. And I tell you, I work hard with the clients that I work with to dispel them of this idea that, number one, the money's going to take care of itself if you deliver a good product or a service or anything. People love getting stuff for free. And if you give it for free, they're going to take it for free all day long, not because they want to take from you, but because you haven't established the value that that says that they need to pay for this. So, but here's the key. The big key is, if you're not making money, you can't help anyone. You can't help yourself. You can't pay your vendors, your suppliers. You can't pay people to come in and help you from the perspective of employees or 1099s. Or if you're not making money, you can't help anybody. Your ability to help people is so limited. And if you're delivering a benefit, you should be compensated for the benefit that you're delivering. And here's where the thing comes in. And this is where I try to get people to then shift their mindset to say, if I'm delivering a value, I'm solving a problem for people, and in a way with a solution in which they're willing and able to pay for, and then I take that money. Now comes the altruistic part, where you can now satisfy your mentality to say, okay, now that I have this money, what am I going to do? Am I going to donate it? Am I going to put it back into the business to grow the business so that I can help even more people? Am I going to take some vacations during the year so that I don't burn out in my, quest to achieve this large objective? But now you have choice and you have decision because you have money.
Mhm.
So if you put it into the perspective of it's not greed that you are pursuing when you're pursuing money with your business, you're pursuing the whole bigger picture of making the world a better place.
Yes, yes.
That's what it is that you want to
One,
do.
100%. And a lot of times, we get this, and I'm so glad you're talking about this, is because, we are so passionate about business and small business owners and the things
Mhm,
that they have to go through. A
mhm.
lot of times they undercut themselves or they disvalue themselves. It's a
Yeah.
good way, or that you see a way to find the right value or to value the delivery that they're doing. You and I always try to deliver 10 times the value of what we're
Mhm,
selling or what we're offering. How do
mhm,
people come up with that quickly and really all of a sudden see the value?
mhm. There's a couple of foundational things that you have to um, factor in when you're looking at the money part of it. Number one is you have costs. No one does business without costs. You are paying for things in your business. So the first thing you have to know is what is this costing me to build this business? What are my startup costs? And then what are my ongoing costs? Your price has to exceed that. Now is where you have an opportunity to say, okay, how much can I build in above my cost? So then you look at the market and you say, in this environment, people who are doing what I'm doing, if you're not first, you have to be better or different. So if you're not first, there are people already out there doing it. So you can look and say, okay, they're not solving the problem to the greatest extent possible. And I can find an opportunity in here to solve that problem for people who are receiving relief. So now you look at the market. Okay, what are they charging? Oh, they're charging $300 an hour. Okay, what I'm offering has more value, so I'm going to be above $300 an hour. Or, you know, we're doing the same thing, but I'm starting out and I need to grab some market share and I need to get some customers. So maybe I'll go a little market minus, try to undercut their pricing. I don't recommend that as a long-term strategy, but maybe if you want to get those first few customers, you just discount a little bit and you get some customers, and then you look at the value proposition and the value competition and say, okay, I can raise my price if I raise my value. People pay for value. And if you're giving enough value, they don't ask you what the price is, not right up front. And if they ask you why your price is so much higher than others, you say, well, are you comparing apples to apples? Or are you comparing apples to oranges? And now you can have a reasonable conversation about your pricing. So those are a couple of ways to start out with your pricing. Make sure that your price is going to cover your costs with a profit margin, 10%, 15%, whatever it is, but something. And then you look at the market and say, is my price comparable to the market? And is my value comparable to competitors? And now you have a measuring stick. Then there's a third way. There are people out there who have so much money they couldn't care less about how much it costs.
Yeah.
And to a certain degree, people don't really make the decisions on what they buy based on the price. And this is another fallacy that people say, oh, if my price is low enough, people will buy from me. No, there's this thing about you get what you pay for. And some people believe that. So if your price is too low, they go, well, you must not be very good.
Yes.
So your price is a little bit higher. They go, yeah, this person must know what they, if they're willing if they're willing to speak out of their mouth that amount of money, they must be pretty good.
Yeah, dude. That's so such. When I go to the dentist or I go to the doctor, they always send me to who? A specialist.
Right,
I want to be the specialist because you know what? Every time I hear the word specialist, I see dollar signs.
right, right, right. Exactly. And but you're getting the best. I said
Yes.
nobody ever goes out and says, hey, tell me who is the second best person.
Yes.
No, no. Tell me who's the best person. And the best person is most likely gonna cost. But you'll find that best person, you look at their prices, you'll determine whether or not you'll listen to testimonials and you do your homework and you do diligence and all that kind of stuff. And eventually you'll come back and in comparison. I'm gonna take a little bit of a detour here and
Yeah.
say we don't like to sell. Nobody wants to sell. When I do presentations and I say how many people out here like to sell, it's typically 20%. You know, 2 out of 10 people will raise their hand, and but we all like to buy. So in order for people to buy you, you have to be in a situation where they can shop and compare. And that's what we were talking about. I'm bringing it back to what we were talking about, which is you look at that dentist and you look at that specialist and you look at what they charge, and then you don't take too long because you want the pain gone, but you'll say, okay, is there anybody else out here that I might be able to get for,
Yeah.
less expensive? But at the end of the day, you're not going to take too long to make that decision because you need your pain relieved.
Yeah.
And so um,
You know,
spend, yeah,
what
yeah,
you're saying is basically, you don't want to be a commodity. You
that's
want to
right.
stand out. And that's
That's
what
right.
that's what Dr. Barnes is saying here, folks. If you're
Yeah,
listening, figure
yeah,
out a way to not be that commodity, to be that
that's right.
specialist.
That's right. Do you want to be Walmart or, do you want to be Neiman Marcus? And that's what I was getting to with this third category of pricing, which is luxury pricing. You don't
Luxury.
buy a Rolex to tell time. You don't
Yeah,
buy,
yeah,
a Bentley to, get from place to place. They're status symbols. They're representative of success. And if your product or service or whatever it is you're providing can meet that status, then you can charge a representative price, and it's going to be a high luxury price. I know people out there whose market is high net worth individuals. I'm going to provide X service for high net worth individuals because they know they can charge a premium price.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
you're not
love that.
ripping them off. You're not ripping them off. You're not cheating. You're giving them precisely what they want, which is exclusivity. I don't want something that everybody can buy. I want something that I can buy because I've reached this level of success. And if you're not gonna set a price that excludes other people, it's not helping me. It's not giving me what I need.
Yeah, yeah. I love this because Russ, you're speaking my language. Listen, and both of us call it the red rope theory.
Right.
You
That's
want,
right.
I mean, we both come from that same stuff. I mean, it is so important to have that luxury style because, like you said, someone is going to see the value and pay it.
That's right. Hey, we both grew up in New York, and I don't know if this is a good thing to bring up, but before, when we were young, man, Studio 54 opened up and they had lines and
Yes.
lines and lines because they didn't let everybody in.
Mm-hmm. I remember standing out there and the guy looking, picking, or you had to go up and give him $20 or whatever it was to get in there. It was a luxury. You got picked. Wow.
Exactly.
I feel honored to go across there and what? Spend my money.
Yep. It was crazy. It was absolute craziness. And then that model started to spread out to other clubs, across the city. But man, that was they were so so it was so then you could go back and you could talk, hey man, I got into Studio 54 this weekend. And
Yeah.
everybody's envious. Everybody's
Yeah.
like, what? How'd you do that?
I remember. I remember. It was awesome. I remember and what was great about that, and we'll get off that in a second, was,
Yeah.
there was you sitting there drinking a beer and there's some star standing right next to you, but you weren't bugging them or, when you went into those places, it was a different atmosphere. It was a different lifestyle. And like you said, everyone was equal in that sense.
So those three pricing models, one is you want to make sure you cover your costs with a profit margin. Number two is you want to make sure that you are within the range of what the market is, because when people shop you, they're going to say, well, why are you more or less than person down the block or across the globe, because people can shop globally, and you want to be able to have then the value conversation. I'm more because I'm giving you this and you're not getting it from them. And then there's the luxury pricing. So those three things
Yeah.
you have to be thinking about as you are setting what your pricing is. And there's one other thing that I'll throw in here. And if you don't know what your price per hour, there's another way you can look at it is what are you worth as an individual? And one of the ways you can do that is to say, what's the most amount of money that I've ever made in a year? You break that down to an hourly rate, whether it's a 24-hour a day hourly rate, or whether it's a 40-hour work week hourly rate. And then you just use that as a starting point and say, hey, this is what I'm worth. This is what I have achieved in my lifestyle, in my life. And then maybe you add in and say, well, this is what the highest I've ever been paid, but now I have a master's degree. Now I have certifications. Now I have this. And you should come up with a personal, how much are you worth as an individual per hour, regardless of what it is that you're trying to sell.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how you say that. The people will come out. You don't want it to be able to go across the street and take your pricing and go to across the street and go, here, compare this or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. That's not it. You don't want to be a commodity. You don't want somebody to be able to walk down the road. So figure out a way to stand out.
Right. Because if you drop your price, then the competitor's going to drop their price, and you got to drop your price more, and they're going to drop their price. And it's a race to the bottom.
Ain't no winner.
Somebody's going to be paying customers to take their products.
Exactly. Let's skip a little. And again, I love this because we're kind of agreeing on all this stuff. How important is it for an entrepreneur to pay themselves?
Oh, that's why you're in business. That's the whole point of you being in business, is you want to create a lifestyle for yourself. Whether it's in the short term or whether it's in the long term. My experience, for example, when I retired from the military, I needed to replace $40,000 in annual income in order for me to be able to maintain the lifestyle that I had become, that I had created. And so I knew that this was the amount of money that I needed. So I needed to pay myself. I needed to build, because if you're not going to pay yourself with your business, you may as well go get a job, because you're going to have to pay your bills one way or the other. So, and then depending upon the structure, if you set up yourself as a C corporation, it's a requirement legally for you to pay yourself.
Ah, there you go.
There are certain things you have to have as a C corporation, and one of them is that you have to be paying yourself a salary.
Yeah, there you go. So, and as entrepreneurs, there's one thing that we've all learned, and new entrepreneurs, we want you to know that it's not easy. You have to have thick skin, right? Because even myself, and I'll tell people as you listen, I run my bank accounts, my numbers very close to what if I had $1 million in a bank, no one cares. I'd rather have that money in my bank and personally, right?
Yeah. And that's why I talked about where you want to be. So the definition of strategy, how to get from where you are to where you want to be, your lifestyle has to be factored into that. I talk about how much money you earn in revenue, how much money you spend to cover all your costs, and then how much is left over and what you do with that money. That's where you get to make that decision of, if I want to donate all this money, I can donate all this money at some point. But before you start donating all the money that you're making in this business, you have to think about how you're going to pay your own bills. So how much of that? So I would factor that. I include that in the expenses of the business. If I want to put $100,000 in my pocket every year, then that needs to be part of the expenses of the business. If I want to put $1 million in my pocket every year, that needs to be built into the business model of the business. And so then the question becomes, okay, if I want to put $1 million in my pocket every year, how much do I need to make? You may need to make $5 million in revenue for you to put $1 million in your pocket. So these are the things that help you become purposeful and intentional about what you're doing, because now you can break it down and say, okay, what am I offering? What is the value? What are people paying? And how is this, packaged as a product, so that then I can market it to the community of people that I want to help.
Yeah.
All of those things have to be thought in. But just the way I described it in this short period, if you're thinking about it in that way, it becomes a lot easier to manage than your mindset.
Yeah.
My goal is to put $1 million in my pocket. I have a product that I'm selling for $10,000. How many of those do I need to sell every year in order for me to be able to do that? And now then all the other stuff starts to come in, and you can manage it a little bit better.
Yeah. And all you listeners out there, Russ Russ is talking about putting together a plan. Not, you don't want to go, well, I got into my own business because I don't like, but you should have some idea. He's not saying you got to know every day what you're going to do, but have a goal, have a plan, and go back to it every couple of days, or know what you need to do. He doesn't mean to plan out every second, guys, because some people that entrepreneurs don't, but some people do. But to have an idea where you want to be, Russ, man, it's so important.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Carmine. And I'm the opposite of this strict discipline, do this now every day. I do believe in consistency. You
Yes.
have to be consistent in what you're doing if you're going to be successful. But I also have something that I call structure without restriction. And that is, you have these boundaries, and within these boundaries, you can do a lot of things creatively without having to do the exact same thing every day. And part of my philosophy came from my physical fitness program. I don't do this anymore, but years ago, I used to run 1,000 miles a year. And that sounds like a big number. But when you break it breaks down to somewhere between three to 3.5 miles a day. And if I do 3.5 miles a day at the end of the year, I've actually exceeded 1,000 miles for the year. But that does a couple of things for me. The first thing it says is my target is 3.5 miles a day. Let's just use 3.5. My target is 3.5 miles a day. So what happens if I run 4.5 miles on a day?
Yeah.
That means I'm ahead of my curve. What happens if it rains and I don't run that day? I'm gonna be a little bit behind, but I can catch up. I don't fail to meet my objective until December 31st at midnight if I haven't reached 1,000 miles. So anywhere during that entire year, I can catch up, I can get ahead, I may fall behind, but I have all kinds of flexibility to make that happen. If on a day, I feel really good and I just go out there and I just kill it, hey, that's money in the bank. And so you have flexibility, and that's one of the things I call structure without restriction. You have the structure, but you can execute it in any way, any way, shape, or form. I did that for a couple of years, and then I started to realize that the summer months, when it was really hot down here in Florida, I didn't want to be doing long distance in the heat. So I would cut back on the mileage in, towards the end of June, July, and August. Those months, I wouldn't be out there running as much distance. But in September, October, November, December, all these other months, I could put in more distance because it was cooler, and I didn't want to dehydrate myself. I didn't want to hurt myself. And in your business, it's the same thing. You have cycles in your business. So if you say, I want to generate 100,000, $1 million at the end of the year, but then nobody's really buying in the second quarter of the year, maybe that's the quarter where you do all of your development work in your business, so that then when those heavy seasons hit, you already be prepared. You have your inventory, you have whatever you need, so that now, you're not trying to do everything all at once. It's a
Yeah.
mentality. It's a mentality of management, but you have to have a framework. I prefer to use a framework rather than a plan, and strategy, how to get from where you are to where you want to be. That's a framework.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah.
And
Unbelievable.
anytime you take on a new business idea, you simply say to yourself, this is a good idea, I think, but where do I want to be with
Mm.
it? You know, how much money do I think it could help me add to my revenue pool?
Yeah.
Um, how many people are there actually out there who have this problem that I could, market to, and what type of a price would I need to charge? Where do I want to be? You ask yourself that first, and then you say, okay, where am I? How far away from being there am I, and what do I need to do in order to get to that point?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So
It's
all
a
you listeners,
structure.
all you listeners out there are going, what the hell? How do I get going with Russ? Or how do I put together all the stuff he's talking about? Russ, I got to talk about your assessment system, all the stuff that you have conglomerated into this. And I know that people are out there, and this assessment that you have, it's online. And I want our listeners to know about this thing because it's insane. I took it. It is so cool.
Yeah. No, it's a very powerful tool, and tools are key. You can't do anything without tools. And what we're faced with in this environment are people who are having to figure out how they're going to generate money to provide for their families based on their own skills, talents, and abilities, because jobs are going away. Jobs are, and it doesn't matter if it's unskilled, skilled, or professional. The technology that is coming around is eliminating jobs. So you are going to have to figure out, how do I then take my skills, talents, abilities, and experiences and turn that into money that I can use to feed my family at a minimum. And preparedness comes into that equation. How prepared are you? How prepared are you to set out on this journey? You know, have you done any personal development, product development? Where are you? So I've created, and this has been years ago, I created this. Let me back up.
Yeah.
Um, when I started down this path, I retired from the military, and I determined that business was, becoming an entrepreneur was the best way that I could take control of my freedom, which is what I wanted. Freedom, freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom. I wanted freedom. And there was no sort of a model that enabled me to be able to figure out how to make that happen. It was the Wild Wild West. It was throw something against the wall, see what sticks. And through a series of activities, I came to the conclusion that organization design and strategy development was where I needed to be and what I needed to be doing. So I went into a PhD program. In the PhD program, I studied 75 business owners who started with zero and built their companies to $100 million in annual revenue. And I focused on what they did in the pre-profitability stage, before they had people, before they had money, before they knew what they were doing. What did these people focus on? And if all 75 didn't do it, it didn't count. It didn't meet the criteria for being included as a business fundamental. And out of that study came this business readiness assessment, where I said, this is what they did to prepare. And this assessment, it takes 5 minutes. You go through it, it comes out, it's mapped to what I call a progression model, and it shows you where you are. And because it's you who fill it out, it's you who agree with what you said. What that does is it puts everybody else on the same page as you. And it's powerful. It just, and so you can now say, I am either very prepared or I am not very prepared, neither one of which should put you on a high or put you on a low. It's a fact. It's a data point. This is where I am. And in that definition of strategy of how to get from where you are to where you want to be, this gives you the where you are with no question.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so once you
There's
take
no
it,
wrong place, right? I mean, that's the thing. There's no wrong here. It's going to give you, this is where you are.
this is where you are. You want to know, and you know, if you're planning a trip, you know, just a trip, you're going to say, I'm going to New York. I'm in Florida. There's nothing about being in Florida that has implications of your level of success or achievement or capability or skill or talent. There's nothing. It's just where you are. This is where you happen to be. So once you know where you are, though, then you can say, okay, if I'm going to New York, then I can drive, I can fly, I can, you know, I can go by way of Atlanta. You know, there's so many different choices that you can then make in terms of how you get to your destination. And let's say you decide to drive and you hit traffic or you hit road work and you have to take a detour, you know how to get back and get back in directionally to going to where you want to go. So the business readiness assessment tells you where you are. And it gives you the ability to then say, okay, if this is where I am, these are some of the things that I need to do and be thinking about in order to make the next move. And when you start talking about the definition of strategy of how to get from where you are to where you want to be, just like a marathon, you can't run it in one step. You got to take every step along the way. So I also do what I call turning unknowns into knowns. There's so much that you don't know that as you map out your path, you're going to put things in places and say, this is what I think I need to do. And then as you start walking down that path, you're going to say, oh, no, I don't need to be doing that right now. I need to be doing this. And now you can prioritize and you can move stuff around. And if something happens, an opportunity comes along, you can assess that opportunity based upon the path that you created for yourself. So from a strategy development perspective, this is how I look at the world. And it it removes the guesswork, but allows you to keep in the creativity, which is what most people want, you know. Now, when we start talking about a plan, you have your business model, which is a type of a plan. You have your business plan, which is clearly a plan and is called a plan. You have action plans, and you have all of these other tools that you can use based upon how will they work for you. I need a hammer. Boom. I need the business plan. I need a screwdriver. I need a business model.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's
You
amazing.
pick and choose and use them as appropriate. But first you have to be thinking strategically.
Yeah.
And that's my space. That's my jam. And I know that people can't think strategically like I can. So that's why I created the assessment. Because you can take the assessment, you get the benefit of a strategic perspective on you and your business idea, but you don't have to be a strategic thinker. You have a tool that I provided for you to be able to get that done.
Yeah, but what I love about it is it gives you information. It allows.
Mhm.
Yeah, have you had somebody that goes, "Holy shit, I can't do this, but I have this." Like I'm going in the wrong direction, but I can pivot because of this information.
That's right. Yeah, it does do that. Because again, it's mapped to a progression model. And the first level of the progression model, for example, is personal development. As I started working with business owners and we start working on their business idea, I started to realize this person doesn't know anything at all about business. They don't have a conceptual idea of sales and marketing and production and all the things that go into this basic thing called business. So you have to have some personal development. You have to take some classes with the Small Business Administration or read the E-Myth Revisited or Profit First or you have to have some personal development. So in the business readiness assessment, it shows you where those 75 business owners focused in terms of their personal development. And then it gives you a series of questions and things like that that you can ask to say, did I do this? If I haven't done it, then I need to do this too.
Yeah,
If they did it, I need to do this too.
yeah.
And then and so now you have very tangible actions that you can take in order to make sure that your personal development is where it needs to be. So then you can start moving into the technical aspects of actually building the company.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. I mean, not having knowledge, you're shooting arrows in the dark, man.
Well, when as also as part of this study, when I looked at the statistics of 50% of small businesses fail in the first 5 years,
Wow.
first question that came to my head was, well, 50% succeed. So what are the 50% who succeed doing and knowing that the 50% who fail don't know and don't do? Let
Yes.
me focus on them. And that's why I went after the business owners to see what it is that they did to get from zero to $100 million in annual revenue. What did they do? I wanted to know, how did you succeed?
Yeah.
And that's all coded into the entire framework of Systro Solutions. Systro Solutions is built on that idea of what does success look like and how have successful people get there. By studying 75, I covered the spectrum of people, whether it was ethnicity, income, education, experience, the whole spectrum.
Yeah. Yes. 75's a lot. That's a lot of companies. I'm sure you did. I'm sure so many different markets too.
So many different markets, so many different business ideas, so many different trajectories, um, different levels of help and assistance and structures, covered it all. And
It's
then after
amazing.
doing that study and then implementing, that was 2019 when I completed the PhD. And so then I rebranded and reframed Systro Solutions to incorporate all of those things into my company. So since 2019, I've been actually applying those with business owners, and the business readiness assessment evolved from a piece of paper where people were putting check marks
Yes, I remember
into,
that.
yeah, into Google form, a job form,
Yeah.
and now it is a very robust um, piece of technology.
Yeah, I know you got some colleges using it, you got some business
Yeah.
schools using it. So how do people get it, man?
Yeah, the way for individuals to get it is just go to my website, systrosolutions.com, and there's a page there that says assessments, and you just go, click on the assessment, take the assessment, you know, just pay by credit card, right there on the site. And like I said, it takes 5 minutes. You get your results, and then you can begin to move forward and take action from that point.
Yeah.
So
Now,
yeah, this is
are you
easy
still
to do.
taking on clients? I know you've been pretty busy.
I do to a limited extent. So I have three basic approaches that I'm working on right now. One is the Purposefully Profitable program, and that's where I work with business owners one-on-one, strategy development one-on-one, and we go through the revenue development strategy. I have four stages to the company. The revenue is the first one, the revenue strategy. Like we said, you're in business to make money. So if we can't figure out how to make money with what you're doing, you either need to abandon it or we need to figure out what's not working and make that thing work. And I have a methodical approach for doing that. So the Purposefully Profitable program is one-on-one. My mission mapping program is group.
Hmm.
And I'll offer that also to entrepreneurial support organizations who are grant funded, and then they write me into the grant. I deliver the mission mapping workshop through that program. Also offer that to colleges and universities. So we're marketing to institutions right now. We're looking to get into banks because they want to give
Oh,
business owners money, but a lot of business owners aren't ready. They're
yeah.
unprepared. They don't, and the bank can't figure out how much money do I give this person, because what the bank want? The bank wants their money back with
Yeah,
interest.
that's right.
So if they're loaning money and they're not getting it back, their business is spiraling down. And many people don't know it, but if a loan officer has 1 to 2% failure in the business loans that they approve, they're probably going to be out of a job pretty good.
Wow, I
One
didn't
to
know
two
that.
percent. We're
Wow.
not talking 50%, 1 to 2%. They have a
Whoa.
very thin margin that they're working on as well, as that loan officer. So when you walk into a bank and you say, "Hey, I'd like some money to build this company," and they say, "Okay, what do you got?" and you start laying it out for them, and there's nothing in there that demonstrates that you're actually making any money, uh, it's going to turn into a very different conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
There are
Yeah,
there are
wow.
micro loans and there are other things that you can do to get some startup cash into your business. But if you want a significant chunk of money to grow your company, you have to demonstrate how much money you're making before
Yeah.
a bank or an investor is going to actually, give. And I tell people, don't spend money to make money. First you need to figure out how to make
Make
money.
money.
Then you need to spend money to make more money.
That's right.
And banks and investors will give you money to make more money, but they're not going to give you money to figure out how to make money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. I love how you just put that, and hopefully
yeah,
people are playing that back and
yeah,
jotting it down, because that
yeah,
spells it out, man. If
yeah.
you're not making money, you can't just go to get someone. Hey, listen, I lost all my money, so I want yours.
Right, right,
Spend
right.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, I've been building this company for 5 years. I haven't paid myself a salary. I want you to invest in my company so I can pay myself.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna thank you in 5 years for paying me. You know.
Yeah,
Oh God. And
they
listen,
want their money back.
yeah, and listen, guys. Both Russ and I have been in business in a long time, and we've made our share of missteps and everything. And Russ has really put together these awesome programs. I mean, you could just, listen to what we're talking about. And Russ, we just scratched the surface, man. I mean, in reality, we could have picked one subject and spent the whole time on this. I just wanted to,
Yeah.
give some people those little nuggets and things that you and I talk about when we get together and things in that sense. But the
We
assessment is so important. If you're out there listening to this right now, even listen, if you're successful, which is great, you're making money, it's still worthwhile to take this assessment, right?
It absolutely is, because I work with some business owners who were, doing hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue, but they were concerned because their money was at risk. And so when we go back, then we can fill in those basic foundational things so that now they're on a more solid footing from their mentality perspective, and they're not missing things. And now they feel much more comfortable because now, okay, I know what I need to be doing. Are you checking your cash at the end of the day, every day? So you know how much is there. Do you have a 13 week, rolling window where, so all of these things you now feel comfortable because you say, okay, I've got the right tools to manage and make sure that I'm not going to put myself at undue risk. We're always going to be at risk, but undue risk. So yeah, you and I, we always talk about, hey, we're just going to talk for 30 minutes. And before you know it, it's 3 hours, and we're getting deep into all these different things. But you and I came together in the beginning because we had the same mentality about changing lives when it comes to people being in business, saving them from some of the predatory practices that are out there that are going to shoot them down, giving them the tools and the mentality to be able to think effectively so they can take control of their ability to earn and all those things. And you and I have always been on the same page when it comes to that.
Yeah. And delivering value. It's one thing that, you and I agree with. And we get people that they talk about making money. They want to make money, but they don't deliver the value. And that's something that you and I have always been on,
I've always had a problem with the fake it till you make it kind of.
Yeah.
There's some reasonability to that, to say, well, I don't know everything, but I have to move forward. So I can't just stand still. When I started this business and I started what I'm doing, man, I had PowerPoint slides and they were painful. The business readiness assessment did not exist.
Yeah, man.
Put some people through some painful stuff in the very beginning. But I was still striving and continue to strive to get better and better and better. So those people who paid the painful price in the beginning of doing business with me, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Except that I know I delivered something that that helped you out, but it was a little more painful than it probably had to be.
It's so amazing. Well, listen, man, we're going to jump off, but we'd love to have you come on. I know I'm going to get a bunch of emails and questions.
Yeah.
So maybe we can schedule some more time for all you listeners out there. Send me any questions you have. I mean, this is real business stuff, right, Russ? This is not theoretical.
Yeah, please do. I love the questions. I love responding to people's concerns and issues. And please do.
One quick thing I want to ask you about, maybe you can give me two-minute answer. The importance of AI. Which way should people go? What should people be doing with it?
Dive in deep in, because it's not going away. First of all, second of all, it is a very powerful tool. Third, all the horror stories about what AI can do and what it will do in the movies and all that other kind of stuff, whether it comes true or doesn't come true, at this point in time, you need to understand what it is and where it's going. There are ways that you can dip your toe and learn without putting yourself at risk. If that's how you feel, you're kind of risk averse when it comes to these kind of things, just dip your toe. Read some books, go to some seminars, talk to people, but you can't turn a blind eye and say, I don't believe it. It's whatever. You have got to open your eyes and look at it. And I will tell you, if you're not doing that, at least, you're going to get run over by the train. People out there right now doing tremendous things with all the different types of AI, because there's generative AI, which is the typical chat GPT. You ask it a question and it gives you an answer, but there's also GPTs out there that do images. There are GPTs out there that'll do a presentation, a PowerPoint slide presentation for you. You can, this is one of the reasons why I say all levels of jobs are going away, because, I had a conversation with an attorney and I asked him to do a certain thing, and what he gave me wasn't what I needed. And he and I didn't agree on what it was I needed. So I went to, an AI and I said, hey, give me this information. And I got what I needed.
Wow. That's proof positive right there.
And I ran into a lady who said, yeah, I do that all the time. I'll do this and then I'll go take it, and I'll have them review it and sign it.
Wow.
So it's a powerful tool.
Okay.
Please do not disregard um, this tool because there's fear in terms of what it can and may do. There's much more that it can do.
Yeah.
And so that's more than a 2-minute answer, but
Yeah.
I can't emphasize enough.
Yeah.
I have a book, um, you know,
Of the
myself.
100,000. And by the way, folks, those are real books behind Russ.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my little library here.
Well, look, if you find it, Russ, we'll put it in. We'll put it in the notes, the show notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do that.
And maybe we'll have you come back on. We'll talk a little bit more about the AI stuff. I think it's important for people to, like you said, jump in, use it as a tool. Don't be scared of it. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, it's the least of you. At least don't worry about things. There's going to be a lot of things that make you uncomfortable. If you're not feeling uncomfortable, you might not want to be an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah. I mean, I tell again, another thing I say is there are no right answers. And we're taught that there are right answers, but there are not. So what there are, though, is there are best answers for you under the circumstances. And as the circumstances change, you're going to have to continually go find the best answers. And AI may be one of the best answers for you. And just also remember this, AI gives you a tremendous starting point. The generative AI I'm talking about now, Chat GPT, Copilot, Gemini, those types of things. They give you a tremendous starting point, but you still going to have to go in and refine the information that they give you. So don't think that it's the holy grail and that they're going to give you, every answer you need. They're going to give you a great starting point, but you are still the entrepreneur. You're still the thinker, and you have to take what it gives you and massage it so that it makes sense for you and what you're trying to accomplish. But it's a great tool.
Yeah, I agree. And this is what happens. All you listeners out there, Russ and I do this all day. All I think is one more question and then one more. It's so cool. So, So Russ, awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you're super busy, but we really, really appreciate it. Definitely. And if all you listeners out there, go on out there, systrosolutions.com, take the assessment. No one's going to see the results except for you, but it really will give you an idea of where you are and maybe where you want to go, where you need to be. It's very, very important. Russ, man, or Dr. Barnes, I love having you on, and we're going to ask you to come back on as soon as possible. I really appreciate you coming on. All you listeners, please go on out to Google Play or iTunes. Subscribe to the show, leave us a review, leave us a note, send us a question. We'd love to hear from you. So for Mr. or Dr. Russ Barnes, for myself, Carmine Dinisco, I appreciate you all for coming on, and we will catch you next time on the Launchpad. You all take care.
Take care.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you found the information helpful, we'd love for you to share our podcast and website with your friends. If you need help with an idea or invention, or have a topic you'd like us to cover in a future episode, don't hesitate to reach out through our website. Please note that all statements and discussions are the opinion of the hosts and guests and should not be considered legal or business advice.